Welcome back to another episode of Tune In with Gab. I'm in a different location today. I'm recording in my attic room, which feels so homey. I have like an office space, and then sometimes I have to record here because I'm still navigating doing the podcast and my business with kids, and sometimes things are unpredictable. So, today I'm talking about values. And this is a really important topic right now because so many people are coming to this awareness that they are not feeling fulfilled in their current life. And this is actually has been very common for I think several generations because society teaches us that success is climbing the corporate ladder, it's building wealth, creating a 401(k), buying that dream house, and getting married and having kids. And there's not a lot of room for other people to have different values or create a different life. Like, think about people who are single or choose not to have kids. Like, they're considered the taboo, or, and this is not my views because I think everyone deserves to live their life exactly how they want to live. But there's this, like when you come home from college or when you see your family at holidays, how many of us have been subject to the question, like, before you get married or if you're single, like, are you seeing anyone? Like, are you gonna have kids? What's your job? Like, what's your career? Those are the questions that our society puts so much focus on, and it leaves no room for desires outside of those things or values that maybe don't align with the choices other people are making. And this is really important to me because I think that while I have kids and I'm married and I have a house, like, I myself have gotten really clear on my values and have started to build my life in alignment with that. And the thing about values is that they can constantly change given what stage of life you're in. So, for example, my values have been focused on right now my health, my well-being first, because I went through my own health journey. And then after that would be my kids and their health and well-being and my connection to them at this stage in my life. So making sure that for me, it's really important to be present with them, be home with them at least some of the time. And then after that would be my creativity slash my job or career and building that around my podcast, my intuitive readings, and my writing. And with that comes sacrifice because I could be working full time or in another job and having, a bigger house and, a different lifestyle. But right now, I'm choosing to value these things that are not monetary, that are more fulfilling, so that I can feel more fulfilled on a daily life and more connected to my purpose. And my values and my choices don't have to look like yours or someone else's. And that's where I think we, especially like families, will project their own values onto their children. Like parents will do that and be like, well, I really value career and money and success, so you should too. But if someone's an artist, their values are going to look a lot different than their parents. So, this is something that, especially for millennials, because I mentioned this Pluto and Scorpio placement that we have in my last episode, that we have to, especially if you're a millennial or even Gen Z, it's like letting go of people pleasing and doing what feels most aligned to you. That's what is so important because our kids are going to learn from us in that way. But also, you're here to enjoy life. You're not here to live by someone else's values and what someone else wants for you. You're here to find joy, and it's okay when your values look different than someone else's. I think something important to consider also when you're choosing a partner is, do your values align? And that can shift over time. So it can be really difficult because you have these values that are aligned at the beginning, and maybe one of you has shifting values when you have kids, or you discover a passion that you want to make your full-time business. So there's also that aspect of like, in marriage or partnership, it's, do my values continue to align with this person? The other piece too is in friendships, because we can have friends that, for example, I know a lot of my friends in my 20s was surrounded around partying, drinking, going out, and that served me well at that time. Like that was really fun and exciting, and those were fulfilling for me at the time. And then when I quit drinking and went on my meditation slash, spiritual journey, I was like, this doesn't really align with me anymore. And that doesn't mean there's something wrong with your friendships or with you. It just means that you go separate ways because you're like, oh, we're not aligning right now in our this stage in our lives. So that's another piece that society really puts a lot of pressure on, is this piece around like there's something wrong with you if friendships or relationships end. But if we all were just clear on our values and aligned, especially when choosing a partner, then I think we would all be more fulfilled, because we're like, okay, I'm clear on exactly what's so important to me. So, examples of values, and first of all, I want to say, what actually is a value? Like, what's the definition? So, according to the Oxford Dictionary, it says values are a person's principles or standards of behavior, one's judgment of what is important in life. So, what's important to you in life? And then the cool thing is that there's tons of resources. If you go online, you can take like a values quiz or find a list of like a comprehensive list of values, and you can get really clear on what are your values in life. That was one of the things I learned in my health coaching certification, because interestingly enough, a lot of health issues stem from not living a values aligned life. And a lot of people don't realize that that could be a contributing factor, because our body speaks to us, because, our soul wants us to live in alignment with our values. So, examples of values are health, family, authenticity, adventure, money or wealth, career. And there's so many different values to choose from. And it kind of gives you perspective, because as we grow into adults and as we grow older, we are faced with more responsibility, especially if you have kids, providing for a family, where you live, education for your kids, and also taking care of your health, your well-being. And there becomes this push and pull of, okay, what is actually important to me? Because a lot of times, especially as parents, this happens. We have to make sacrifices, and there is no right answer on how much should I be sacrificing of myself for my kids versus, because everyone's situation is different. Like, yes, you might want to pursue your hobby or your entrepreneurial journey, but there's also this pressure to provide and to support your family. And so there might be different times in your life where it doesn't make sense and it does make sense, or there's no, like, that's why it's not straightforward. There's a gray area. But I think what's really important to understand as parents is, the more that we are fulfilled, especially as mothers, our kids see that and they benefit from that. So if your nervous system is regulated, you're fulfilled, you're happy, then your kids are going to benefit from that. If they see you being a martyr and not fulfilling your own needs, and basically people pleasing and not like filling up your own cup, they're going to learn that as well. And you might be snappier or not as joyful, and speaking from experience. So it's really important to make sure that you are fulfilled. And as I said, it doesn't have to be perfect, but getting clear on what values you're living from so that you can feel joy, feel aligned in your life, because often when we're out of alignment, we are frustrated, we're irritable, we're depressed, we're anxious, and our body speaks to us. And I actually just went through this. I've been going through survival mode postpartum with Daisy, and I was like booking myself, doing all this social stuff and not slowing down. And then I injured my back sitting on a toy, just like a toy that, like a little car that was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and like bruised my tailbone so bad that I couldn't sit down and I had to like rest for 3 weeks. And in that time, I learned how much I was living out of alignment of what's actually important to me. And now I'm in a space of taking a pause and getting clear on like, okay, how do I want to move forward from here? Because my body was speaking to me, my mental health was not good. Like, how do I want to move forward in a slower, more aligned way where I'm actually feeling like I'm paying attention to my values? Because that's the thing about values is you can't choose everything. The more responsibility you have, like there's gonna be a like if you choose your kids as your priority, then your career might suffer. And I don't want to use the word suffer, but it might take a back seat right now. And you might feel called to build your own business or do something different. But having a 9 to 5 career is not going to be feasible if your goal is to stay at home with your kids. And you have to know that that's where priorities are so important. Like prioritizing what's really important to you, because priorities don't mean that you don't get to pay attention to that thing at all. It just means that if you think about, you have a car and you have 5 seats in that car, and you have the front seat, the driver, the passenger seat, and then the back seat. So what's your number one, who's driving the car? And for me, that's my health and well-being. Because if I don't have my health and well-being, then I can't give to my kids. I can't show up as my best self. And I also am pouring from an empty cup. So for me, that means that I need to make sure I'm eating healthy, that I'm exercising, that I'm taking care of myself. I'm doing, acupuncture, going to the chiropractor. And that was one of the things that really went out the window in the past 6 months. And my body was screaming at me because I stopped juicing. I stopped making like my healthy soups, and I was eating like chicken nuggets for lunch because I'm like, go, go, go. And it's like, I got so far from my center that my body was like, whoa, we need to pause. So, it's also having self-compassion of like, it's okay, I'm going to get back on track. So that's where I'm like, okay, that's my number one value. That hasn't changed. And then now my passenger seat, I'm like, okay, is being home with my kids good for me? Because it drains me a lot. And I'm like, if I'm doing this, I really need to take care of myself. But I also have this kind of competing value of building my intuitive business, continuing to do readings, my podcast. But for example, like I'm recording in my bedroom because I feel like my kids have really needed me. I'm trying to wean Daisy. I'm trying to get her on solids, and that's taken the front seat right now. And so my building my business has taken a little bit of a back seat, but that doesn't feel fulfilling to me because I'm like, this push-pull of like, well, I want to prioritize my business right now, but I feel this pull to be with my kids. And it's a very gray area. It's a gray area. So it's just really important to know that you do have to make these choices. And the way that you can do it is by slowing down and reflecting, getting in nature, getting clear on what's really important to you. Because Max and I, my husband, were having a conversation yesterday, actually on our anniversary, and I was like, I don't know if I'm enjoying being home at my kid with my kids anymore. Is it just right now it's extra hard? Is it like, should I focus on my career more? Like, and so these are questions that I'm reflecting on, and this is like what it means to be human is that our values can change and being honest with ourselves. Being honest with yourself is so important, and having that self-awareness of like being comfortable to say, oh, you know what? This actually isn't fulfilling to me anymore. Because I think a lot of times we push ourselves to continue something because we don't want to. Change is scary. Change is uncomfortable as a human. So we try to avoid it at all cost. But what's really important to honor is that the only constant in life is change. I forget who said that quote, but it's not mine. And so we have to accept that sometimes our values all of a sudden shift and it's uncomfortable because we don't want to change our lives based on that because that's scary. But it's part of life and it's gonna happen. I can guarantee it. And so, especially as parents, trust me when I say that you will really help your kids by getting clear on your values and then showing up from that place. And then your family has expectations of what they can expect from you because you're like, your partner knows, okay, her number one value is career. So we're going to build our lives around that. And please never let anyone shame you for your values, especially as a mother, because we in society it's like this, people shame stay-at-home moms, and then people shame moms that love their career so much and want to just work and have that be their focus. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with either of those or in the in between. And so as a society, we have to stop shaming people for having different wants and needs. And I think, honestly, in my opinion, I think that's why a lot of people get divorced. And we're like, why do so many people get divorced? Why is it a 50% divorce rate? Because people change and their values change. And sometimes you can come back from that. And sometimes it's like, oh, I want different things in life now. And it's like, let's just make peace with the fact that people change and want different things, and that's okay. And so once you allow yourself to check in, have honesty, and live from a place of I'm building a life around my values and my priorities. Because once you get clear on those, then it's really easy to look at your life and say, okay, where am I not living from a priorities standpoint? Because, for example, if your priorities are your health and well-being, and then you have friends that go out every Thursday and are drinking and you feel, or like your job has a happy hour and you feel like you have to go. And if you don't, you get shamed or you feel embarrassed or like you feel like you have to be there and you don't like being around alcohol and it just doesn't feel good to you anymore. Those are conflicting values because you're surrounding yourself with people that don't value the same thing that you do anymore. And so, or they don't at all. And so you're showing up and spending your time on that Thursday night at a bar around people drinking when you really want to be at the gym or you want to be at a yoga class or making meal prepping for the next day. And that was something that I experienced also. This story is very relevant to my 20s when I was in a sales job and that was what was happening. And I was like, when I wouldn't drink, it would be like, oh, why aren't you drinking? I'm like, I want to go to a workout class in the morning. And like, it was this big focus on it. So it's okay to get clear on what's not working and cut that from your life because we only have so much time, especially as parents, as I said. So, like, right now I'm in a phase of like, okay, I need to cut back on social outings right now because I only, my priorities right now are my health and my kids and my career and my marriage. And that's like the priority. And I don't have a lot of time for social stuff, but I was putting the social stuff as a priority and I think it was burning me out. And so sometimes we just have to take a pause. Don't be afraid to step back from things. And I think another piece that can give you a lot of clarity is a vacation, or it could be a retreat, something that allows you to step back from your life and get clear on your priorities and then move forward. And that can be life-changing because you also have the perspective of being with other people out of your day-to-day life. So, in conclusion of this episode, I think if you're feeling unhappy, if you're feeling unfulfilled in your life, most of the time it's a values misalignment that we might not even realize is happening. So, talk to your therapist if you have a therapist, talk to your friends, talk to your family, talk to people that are close to you that don't judge you, that are supportive, that listen to you, that encourage you, that want the best for you. And they can also share perspective. And then do self-reflection and ask yourself, what are my top 5 values? And pull up online that list. There's a comprehensive list of like 100 plus values and go through it and use your intuition. Like when you go through each one, you'll kind of feel like a light up of, oh, yes, like you'll get a sure yes when you go through. And you might get like 10 of them or maybe 15, but then when you go through that 10 to 15 that you came, stepped away with, then you say, okay, I have 15 of these or 10 of these that are really important to me. What are my top 5? Who's coming in the car with me? If you can only choose 5 and list it in terms of priorities. And it doesn't mean that those, other 10 or 15 aren't important to you. It's just those top 5 are like how you're waking up every morning and becoming self-aware of what choices am I making and are they aligned with my values? And it's actually super eye-opening because it's like, oh, this TV show that I'm watching for an hour is taking away from my time to go to the gym or to meal prep. And it doesn't mean you shouldn't enjoy yourself, but it's like, let's prioritize those things first. And then if we have time to watch the TV show, yes, it's a balance because you don't want to cut out your fun also. That's important. So I hope this helps you with getting more aligned, getting clear on your values, and building a life that feels fulfilling from the inside out so that you can also live from an aligned place. And I'll see you next week.